Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with the player ranked #1 in the world by Dark. In the red, the final boss. It's Dark. Up against the player ranked #1 in the world by those who like being wrong. In the blue, the finisher, we have Serral. In a best of 7, Zerg versus Zerg showdown between two of the most influential Zerg players in the 15-year history of StarCraft 2. So, without further ado, it'd be amazing if you could smash that like button and maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Dark versus Serral is not a mere match. 1,653 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than Serral's, as of course, on our only map with more than 2 players. Of course, on our only map where there's a 50-50 chance you don't scout your opponent. Of course, Dark is going for a 12-pool cheese with zergling speed. Now, 50-50 chance, Dark says, I'll just round up. Unfortunately for him, Serral's Overlord is headed directly across. So he will see the zerglings early on, and we'll have to progress from a potential outright victory to more of a mind game. But the alarm bells will be ringing, and Serral, Dark scouted to see that Serral wasn't on the other side of the map, but he's now narrowed it down, and the zerglings are already coming across. Serral went for a pool first as well, just not nearly as committed. A few more drones beforehand, so he has a good chance on paper to defend it. But, of course, Dark doesn't play on paper. He'd rather write an emotionally devastating letter on it, and probably just stab you through the eye while you're reading it. But the zerglings gonna start nibbling on the hatchery. Unlikely to get critical damage done early, but now a queen coming down to dispute their presence here. More zerglings on the way. Zergling speed is completed. The queen, a bit of a risky move by Serral. He has a spine crawler in the main. He doesn't want to give up this hatchery, but he may be forced to. The Zergling's gonna get the wraparound go for the queen. Should have tucked herself a little bit further into those minerals, but Dark actually queues up the Zergling full surround, and the queen is ripped to shreds, I say. A gruesome end, and Dark gonna stutter step his way around the hatch, and... Where are you going? Just skips the hatch, gets into the main. Serral caught completely off guard. And the second queen could be taken out. The Zergling's popping out, but no! Both queens are taken down as Dark just kind of runs directly into the main. Was it a good idea? It's unclear, but it was definitely an original one. He maybe could have killed the hatchery, but he definitely ended up killing the queen, so that will hamstring Serral's production dramatically. Even though Dark is down a few workers, he does have 2 queens, the pillars of the Zerg economy, and he's just removed those from Serral. So he should be able to bounce back economically, though it is quite a deficit this early on. Serral, with a triple Evo wall, still scared that Dark has enough Zerglings to break through. He will get through the Evo chambers. They just have to kind of stare each other down right now. He's knocking on the door, ripping it down, cancels the Evos, and but wait a second. The Overlord pushed back in towards Dark's base, getting double-teamed by the queens, and not really in a fun way. Baneling Nest is now in production, and Dark has taken the drone lead. He hard supply blocks Serral, and I think as time goes on, the sniping of the queens gets actually a surround on the Zerglings. We'll pick off a few extra. So Dark now has... Does he have more Zerglings? A similar amount of Zerglings. But Banelings are completed. Serral snuck a few lings across the map. The queens will hold the door. But the hatchery is vulnerable. An eye for an eye will leave the whole world blind. But a Bane for a Bane doesn't necessarily kill one another. It takes 2 Banelings to kill a Baneling, which is a bit ironic, but of course the Zerglings, it's an existential threat. Zerglings on the other side, Dark trying to do a counterattack simultaneously. The queen's holding the line. The Baneling Nest potentially vulnerable. Queens come down the ramp. Serral might want some revenge. And the transfuse, there's not enough energy. One of the queens will be taken down. A gruesome death. More Serral triggered all 3 Banelings on a single queen. An uncharacteristic and meaningful mistake. As now Dark has Banelings, he has more drones, and he still has a queen on defense. So Dark is able to hold the Queen's sacrifice not in vain to the Banes. And now Serral's the one who's in pain as another Bane slams in. Serral losing a surprising amount of Zerglings. Dark still zoning him out. And coming back around again. The Overlord's poking in. Serral, that hatch reliability. Dark isn't at 100%, but not nearly as vulnerable. And the Overlord pokes in. We'll see more Zerglings in production. The Queen's not taking issue with it yet. Roach Warren is on the way. Dark has... He's... Killing the Queens was the call. It was a big risk. I feel like he probably could have gotten the hatchery, but the choice to get both Queens has clearly and utterly handicapped Serral here. His economy, he's down 13 drones. Without the larva inject, even on such a low economy, you can clearly see the difference. Serral invested so much in the Zerglings, he didn't have the larva for drones. It's an either-or, especially without the injects to put him over the top. And now Dark is taking a severe economic advantage. Serral's going to try a bit of a sneaky beaky move. Possibly a pocket spire? The Queen's sneaking out. Banelings dancing. The Overlord in a precarious position, trying to pull a Dark over here and snipe off. That'll be the Queen's. We don't like your kind around here. How do you tell the difference, Brenda? It's red. What? Are you colorblind? That explains so much. Sorry. I was going off smell. Sorry, I blacked out for... Serral backs off as the roaches pop out. 37 drones apiece. And a Spire is on the way. Serral, if he can sneak out some Mutas, then maybe can retake the initiative. But clearly Dark has the momentum. Dark has now mined about 100 more minerals and gas. We're going to get a surprising amount of use out of the mined total, I think, as the early game, just a few hundred minerals, or especially gas, can make all the difference in this sort of match. Dark will see... Wait, did he see this? What? His Zergling got in and saw the spike. Serral, how does that even happen? He slipped a bribe to one of the Queens, just jimmied on past the spine crawlers, and he got it and saw the Spire. Well, that certainly clears up that idea. It's no longer ambiguous, and the Spire halfway done when he spotted it, which would usually be a bit difficult, but because Dark has the economic advantage, it severely limits Serral's options. The Zerglings come by. Dark had some Roaches and Banes back at home to defend, but they're going to do a surprising amount of damage to the third base. Does he actually kill off the hatch? Not quite. But now both of them with a hatch in the red, but not quite dead. Muta's in production. Dark, 54 to 45 drones. The Roaches against the Impaler tentacles of the spines. Yes, that's the real name of the attack. Don't be weird. Roach speed is on the way. He knows there's a spot. Yeah, Hydra Den, Spore Crawlers. A couple Roaches get ripped apart. But Serral choosing the narrow path. If he went Roaches, he'd just have less. If he rushes to something like Hydras or Nydus, it's not going to be enough. It had to be Mutas. It had to be Mutas or some sort of crazy timing before this. And even with it, Serral giving Dark the benefit of the doubt, he's going to hunt down the Overlords first. Transfuse on the hatchery, making sure it's not quite as vulnerable. A single Muta. Ew. Awkward, yet effective. The Mutas trying to get another one in the main. Spore Crawlers to zone out. That will cut into the drone count a bit. And Serral. Now comes another part of the poker game. Okay. Figuring out how committed your opponent is to any particular strategy. You can see the Mutas clearly on the field, obviously. But is he building more? +1 flyer attack is on the way. There's a Roach Warren. I think Serral doesn't even know if Serral's building more Mutas yet. He has 500 gas in the bank. He's deciding whether or not to go for more mutas or roaches. He decides on roaches. Almost kills off the hatch between the roach counterattacks. The Hydra's ping cushioning the mutas. So, the reason you don't usually go straight to Hydras in Zerg versus Zerg is one, you're just going to get run over by roaches. And two, even in a straight-up fight, say, it isn't some big all-in. The Hydras do not have enough HP to compete with the roaches. They will lose outright. So usually, the Hydras are a counter to the mutas or a prelude to lurkers. Otherwise, roaches and ravagers are just better pound for pound. They got a lot of pounds to throw around. Zerglings looking for a counter. Mutas flip-flapping away. Roaches and ravagers coming together, and Serral moved up his spine line. That Overlord coming back for it. Serral finally kills it off, but loses a Muta. Gonna kill off a couple more drones. Dark left with 55. +1 missile attack, now done for Serral. +2 is about to complete for Dark. But Serral has almost dragged this back. Dark has mined 1,300 more minerals, but only a couple hundred more gas. Banelings trying to come in, but the queens keep patching the hatch up. And Serral has expanded to the north side. Clearly the right move, as there is no easy way to break in. The rush, that you have to either attack up a tiny choke point between a rock and a hard place, all the way around the north side ramp, or through the spines. So Serral has about as good of a defender's position as you possibly could in this scenario, but still, he's up against Hydras, he's up against superior upgrades. The Mutas will pick off some of the units, might be able to delay the fourth hatchery as well. Dark does not have anything past the Roach Hydra, so there is still a vulnerability here. He's going to pick off a couple of the Ravagers. The speed zones through the center affect both ground and air, so both sides able to maneuver. Picks off a couple more Mutalisks. Dark just expands to the south. Zerglings stream through into the natural. Dark pulls back, clearly distracted. Mutas will pick off another base, potentially. And Dark, maybe getting a little tilted, decides to just go forward. Can pick off some of this, trying to come through, but what a choke point. And Roaches and Ravagers, the Ravagers and Hydras getting caught in front. A great start to the fight for Serral. He did cancel the base. Still 2 Mutas out there. Serral doing a great job, getting so much done with so little. And he's brought this game all the way back from a pretty difficult situation to a much more tenable one. Still, though, that's a lot of Roach Hydra with superior upgrades. The outright DPS and biomass coming across. Dark dancing out of the waves of corrosive bile. Just continually trading fire. Serral with a dozen banelings. I believe he got roach speed as well. Eating some of the corrosive bile and spitting it right back at Serral. Dark not carried too much. He's ready to break through. The banelings. Yes, baneling speed is completed. The banelings rolling through the roaches, getting out in front. The Hydra's tripped up a bit. Banelings without an incredible connection. The Roach Ravager thinning out the roaches. All that's left to protect them. And that's enough for Dark to back off, as without the roaches out in front, the Mutas! They're back. Banelings just kind of casually rolling by. Sends another round out. The Overlords, the Overlord rave over here. And Banelings roll away. They hating. The Mutas are still alive, but Dark maintaining that supply. He's just refilling that front line. Making sure the Hydras have something to backstop. Or front stop, I guess. Regular stop. Overlord gets in. No hive. That's what he's trying to rule out here. The Banelings through the speed zones. This feels like Ice Baneling Escape, which is a fun but difficult. Yeah, it looks like it's going like most of my Ice Baneling Escape made. A couple kind of survived to limited success. 4 drones dead. But the Roach Ravager just running through. And Dark, the upgrade advantage, the supply. Serral getting caught a little out of position, and that's a lot of punishment. Dark takes game number... Jimmy! Game number 1, not game number 2. Bye. The 12 pool, of course, to open things up on a 3-player map. I think Serral suspected it, so he did like a defensive pool first. But you can't go the middle of the road against Dark. Dark has already driven off-road, possibly gotten behind you, slashed your tires, and will pounce upon you as you spin out on the side. All right. If you're behind, you're very far behind. If you're ahead, you're also behind on other profound things to fill times before we get into game number 2. But Dark. So, this is from Pigsty 6, the last tournament Dark is participating in before his obligatory military service in Korea. And what a match to be playing. But after 15 years of one of the most storied StarCraft 2 careers, it's not retirement. As Dark has said, he wants to come back. And I think of all, but in a year and a half, 2 years, if there's still $45 show matches at 5 a.m. Korean time that he can play in, Dark will be back. If there's still World Cup tournaments, Dark will be back. All right. But it is tough for a lot of players. Only a handful have actually managed to take that year and a half, 2-year break and actually return to success. Though many of the players that Dark is well known for playing against, Beyond and Hero, have done so. I do think if there is a significant StarCraft 2 scene in 2 years, Dark will be back. And you might be like, well, didn't this tournament happen a while ago? It did. But on a personal note, as one of, if not my favorite player ever, until I cast these matches, it wasn't real. We could still pretend like Dark was going to show up. But I think I'm ready to accept it. I'm not. Well. But, giving us some of the best games. How many games of each year feature Dark? Possibly the majority. No other Zerg player, present company included, has managed to be so original, so innovative. Almost seemingly by accident, but also partially by design. No player has managed to kind of circumvent the meta, such as it is, as much as Dark, and create such entertaining games. So much of Dark's games are just putting himself in a position and somehow finding his way out of it. Willing to take those risks, but still with the skill and killer instinct to back them up. Like, Serral is the textbook, and Dark is the dramatic professor who, at the start of the semester, lights it on fire and says, you don't need a textbook where we're going, and then goes home and plays StarCraft all night, winning a bunch of show matches and forgets he's supposed to teach a class. All right, that's Dark. And game number 1 showing it. To bring it all the way back around. And thank you again. If you haven't yet checked out Pig, I'd be a little surprised, but Jimmy, link in the description. Go check out YouTube and Twitch. Putting on these tournaments, long-form matches, again, with the best players, is what we'll need to make sure Dark has something to come back to. And the queens. I'm trying to sneak up on him. I don't... Him? How can you tell? You don't want to know, Brenda. I know. Overlord taken out, and now the knife fight in a phone booth. It's called that in Zerg versus Zerg because you will see the stabs coming. You will see the attacks. The overlords, for the most part, will give you that knowledge. But that doesn't mean you can stop them outright. There is no safe strategy in ZVZ. There's only this sort of Cold War back and forth where both players send out scouts, and at any moment, 30 zerglings could pop out. You do your best to try to maintain that info, but you're going to get stabbed. All right? It's just whoever bleeds out first. That's so much of Zerg versus Zerg. Now, much of the time, last game being the exception because of the crazy early game, the Ling Bane is more a defensive strategy. It's something to make sure to keep your opponent honest. If they literally build no Lings and Banes, you might be able to take an advantage. But both these players kind of building a dozen Zerglings, a couple Banelings, just making sure their opponent does not try to sneak something out. And possibly threatening it. Like Dark has a dozen Lings, gonna force a couple more out of Serral. Keep poking and prodding. And maybe I'll build 20 more, maybe I won't. But at this point, I think partially, well, at the lower level, which is all of them, Ling Bane's still very effective. But here, with these two, they both know the other is not going to take big Baneling hits on a regular basis. It is just simply unreliable. And if you commit to the Ling Bane and you don't get the hits, you're just going to be behind. Dark 53 workers against 48 from Serral, but Serral building another big round. Both of them. +1 ranged attack is on the way. Lair as well. Overlord speed for Dark. Wouldn't be surprised if Serral starts it momentarily. So, we're in the full macro Zerg versus Zerg. It still will cap out, more than likely, at a lower economy than any other matchup. Getting to 70 drones is a minor miracle, even with these two. But it looks like we're headed straight there. As cooling things down here on Persephone. Much more defensible map. But one of the best ways to fight your roach-on-roach battles is to avoid them. It appears Dark embracing that strategy. Dropper... Oh, Baneling drop. I guess why not? You got these Banelings lying around. You got Overlord speed. Overseer coming through. Just confirming. No Spires. Okay. Trust but verify. No Spires to be found. Serral's going to do the same thing. There's effectively no anti-air besides a few Angry Queens with their knitting needles. So... Did Dark start a spore to try to... Oh, he's hedging his bets. Is he not convinced there's no Spire? Both sides starting spores. Is that to kill Oh, to deal with Overlord drops, maybe. This is a level of ZVZ that I rarely get to or see. As we've got a Roach drop. The Overlord Rave will begin in the center, patrolling Overlord so they can't... Baneling drop did not work out. Looks like one drone kill, which is not exactly ideal. The mini-map is a mess, a polka dot of Overlords patrolling everywhere, so they can't be hit easily with Corrosive Bile. Carapace upgrade and +2 ranged attack. 70 drones for Serral, 66 for Dark. Roach is popping out. Actually knocks out a couple drones. Slurps the Roaches back up into the Overlord. Uncomfortable for everyone involved. And Tunneling Claws. Tunneling Claws for Serral. Gonna go up, gonna go down. See if anybody chooses the Nydus to go arguably around. Overseer, tag teamed. And this is restricted lair space. Who are you talking to? He's dead. That's a, what? Wait a second. My sound is broken. Dark providing an emoji out of support. I appreciate that. Just had to restart. IT Wizard. He turned it off and he turned it on again. My grandma would be very, very impressed. IT Wizard indeed. Serral has used a computer once or twice before. The Overlords. Just kind of dancing yet ignoring each other, which is, you know, like the high school dance of things. 8 drones dead to the Baneling drop. Dark waited for his moment. And now the Roach Ravager... I can't get over there. This is a mess. I can't get overlord this. Jimmy, edit that out. The exact same time on +1 carapace. Down to the 10th of a second between these two. Evenly matched is understating it somehow. Corrosive biles will spew out like an unruly frat party as both sides exchanging fire. Down goes the Overlord. Serral backs off. Both players gets a changeling on the way. Still a few roaches. Tunneling claws coming up for Dark. You can see the little indicator with their fancy horns on the top. Whatever those are. Nodules. Not as fun. But both players have tunneling claws. Both players. Even Dark now adding on the Nydus. Gonna have all 3 dimensions. I guess 4 dimensions of potential road. Oh my god, these overlords. What are they trying to tell us? Ugh, it was a metaphor. Shut up. Roaches come in. On both sides. Spore and Spine, but those don't take them out very easily. You need roaches to deal with the roaches. Dark committed a huge chunk of his roaches. Wow, Dark's army supply severely lacking back at home because he just sent like 15 roaches out to the bottom right corner. A Nydus in the main. Serral will see it, but he is maxed out, so he has very few roaches at home. Most of his roaches are committed across the map. So here we go. We're going into a slow-moving base trade right now. As Serral should be able to break through the front. A Nydus in the main. The Roach is overrunning Dark at his 3rd base and will completely cut down the army. But Dark is going to take out the base in the bottom right. The Nydus in the main. The natural Roaches from Dark will be cut down. The Roach Warren, but there's already 27 more in production. He'll rebuild it immediately. Dark has more in the bank and he's actually up 40 supply. Dark scurries on past and now slips into the Nydus. Will take the high ground from Serral. A few of the roaches taken out, but the bow move also helps provide that extra regen. And suddenly Dark is inside of Serral's main base. Meanwhile, Serral sent the units back across. Will probably take out another hatchery, but Serral's going to take out the main. He destroys the hive before it could even complete. And now the infestation pit and the spawning pool. And without a hive, he doesn't have access to overseers, though I don't think he's going to struggle on that front. Dark gutting Serral from the inside out. He still maintains a supply lead and has 20 more workers. Takes out the Roach Warren, and in a much more efficient fashion. Dark has the high ground, even though I think Serral is correctly estimating his power. Just peppering with corrosive biles here. And, well, this is awkward. Dark, the squatter in the main. But speaking of, Serral slips underneath. And there's no overseer here. He gets behind him. He can cut him off. He doesn't go for the Nydus. So Dark will actually make it back into the Nydus with the majority of his Roach Ravager. Kills off both. A gruesome experience. And Dark is now up 50 supply. It's all gone wrong. It's a disaster for Serral. Where are the advantages? He has nothing more. He has less roaches, he has less ravagers, he has less drones, he has less supply, he's less handsome. I don't... You didn't hear that one. Edit that. Hydralisk Den on the way for both sides. Infestation pit, Dark clearly battening down the hatches. I think he understands his advantage. He knows he has more drones, more bases. The only thing that could catch him off guard... Well... Spire? Unlikely. He killed the hive. The main base... The spawning pool is bleeding out! Well, if that isn't a metaphor for this game, I don't know what is. He doesn't have any creep. Dark's coming across the map. The spawning pool bleeds out the Roach Ravager precedent. Dark has the high ground again. Push back at the bottom right. But the Roach Ravager count may be too damn high. Breaking through, just doing a drive-by yet again. The Roach Ravager, and he lands the corrosive vial on top of a chunk of roaches. Dark again, taking a decisive move, stiff arming Serral out of the way. Corrosive, the collateral damage. I don't know whose vials they were, and I don't know if it matters. There's still an overseer on the high ground. Dark brought it along with him. Roaches also working their way around the top right corner. But Dark in pole position to go up 2-0. He just needs to close this out. A lurker den is on the way. Serral still has the slipperiest roaches of them all. But the numbers aren't there. The numbers don't lie. And they spell disaster for the finisher. Knocking down some more overlords as they're just casually creeping. The roaches go in and the roaches go out. You can't explain that. Dark with another huge amount of roaches heading towards the 30s. Trying to outright kill Serral. Hive is on the way behind. Corrosive Vials land. 2-2 upgrades for either side, so the numbers should favor Serral there. But still, Dark working his way down from Serral's former main. No longer. There's nothing left. Overseer just kind of slides out of the way. The rave continues, and will until the end of time. While both of their armies just ravage one another in every sense. I do like the mistranslated version of Ravagers I've seen since the beginning of Legacy of the Void, which is, of course, Revengers. Which they've never been called, but honestly, just as, if not more fun. Serral. How many Revengers? 7. They're assembling, but lurkers on the way already. Dark. His lurkers will be fully operational by the time Serral's roaches arrive. Serral has one shot. He's got one opportunity. But I think it's going to be very difficult to capture. He's down 30 supply. The lurkers will have range momentarily. He doesn't need it. The lurkers themselves existing is going to make it almost impossibly difficult. The Ravagers headed across. The Changelings will keep tabs on him. He burrowed his way across, but there's an Overseer already. The lurkers will burrow. Serral, with his last attack, fighting directly into the lurkers. There's no choice. There's nowhere to go. The roaches, the Ravagers are not enough. Serral, GG, Dark, 2-0. Well, another decisive victory as Dark just rips Serral apart. The multi-pawn, the commitment. Something I feel like Serral never does. He never puts everything out there. All right, for better or worse. Dark just committed over 30 army supply to a huge counterattack, allowing Serral to win the main fight. But Dark won the rest of them. So that put him in a position to take the game from there. Like, Dark gave up his army to kill Serral's main. Which, I mean, if you put it that way, it sounds like a great trade. But the process to get there is so convoluted and risky that it feels reckless at best. So, that brings us to Game 3 with Dark. A significant lead. Both these players no strangers to going down in the series. Maybe Serral a bit more so. Dark certainly not. But Tokamak. It feels weird to say that Serral needs to switch it up. Serral keeps trying to play middle of the road. And you're not getting anywhere fast that way. He's playing correctly, which is wrong because he's up against Dark. It really is just, he put him out there, he put those roaches out there and let the universe guide him. Having Burrow move, Dropper Lords, and Nydus on top of just direct engagements. ZVZ is it's a knife fight in a phone booth and a sumo wrestling, it feels at the same time. A lot more nuanced than it looks when you just mash them together. I assume. I'm not a sumo wrestling expert. All right. Believe it or not. We got the mirror match, though. The devil's in the details, and the details in the production tab. So far, identical. I love how... I can't believe... And it's down to the 10th of a second. Our fancy UI here tracks upgrades to a 10th of a second. They were literally within a 10th of a second on those upgrades. Now, Kith. There. Overlords phasing through each other. Nothing else happened. Don't ask. It's not weird. Zergling speed on the way. For both sides. Surprised. Well, not surprised. I don't know if we'll see another pull first. Feels kind of specific to that particular map, Last Fantasy. That usually gets vetoed. It's hard to veto maps. There's only 2 maps you can veto in a best of 7. I don't know what maps you veto in Zerg versus Zerg as well. It's kind of crazy the 3-player map made it through. Baneling nest on the way. Interesting that we're not skipping the baneling phase entirely. There's been phases of Zerg versus Zerg where players feel comfortable enough to just go straight to roaches. Maybe a few speedlings. But, well, especially on maps where there's not a ramp to the natural. That is usually a defining characteristic. The ramp allows you a little more leeway, potentially going for 2 base roaches. But this map as well, no ramp there. Makes it quite easy for Zerglings to scout, for one, and you're more vulnerable to outright all-ins. So. Dark with a dozen Zerglings in production. Hiding. Some banelings in the corner as well. Serral with a second guess, and I think he's trying to hide on that low ground. But the details very much matter, especially for Serral, the details matter. A lot of ZVZ is giving just enough information. Not letting a Zergling in to get all the information. That's not ideal. He's going to see the Zerglings coming across the map. Dark. Building drones behind. This is just a peacekeeping force. Building these Zerglings keeps the peace, because neither player can build such an economy. Ooh, banelings. Will they, won't they? Ideally won't, but the banelings slip by into the natural. Dark! Gets 4 drones with 2 banelings. Just bribed the queens there. It doesn't take much, but they slip by and surprisingly gets a hit on the drone. Serral is down a significant chunk of workers, down 6 workers still. How did the banelings get by? He cloaked them. All right, he put the little blue color on him for a second. That's crazy, though. Little moves. He put himself in that position, and he took advantage of it. A dark. The Zerglings get in. Lair for both sides. Another round of drones for both sides as well. +1 ranged attack for Dark. Serral. 4 gasket. Mutas. Dark finishes his lair. Dark starts a Spire. A Muta den is on the way. Spire on the... Serral starts a Spire. Independent Spires. They both pull out their pocket Spires. Ooh. Gets exciting. Wow. Okay. It kind of looks like Dark is going for a bit of a tempo-based Muta play, where you get the Mutas and then switch into Roaches. But Serral, on the other hand, is investing in +1 melee attack, which indicates he's more invested in the Mutas and then maybe the Lings. So. Oh, is the Overseer going to see the Spire? Yes! He sees it! He knows. Serral did not quite... He's pixels away. I'm not sure when the vision was there, but... I'm pretty sure Serral realizes he's up against Spire. If he sees the double gap, he sees the double gap. He has to know. He has to know. Getting a 4th base... Getting the gas geysers immediately. 9 Mutas on the way. Dark is going to get Flyer attack. Serral gets Flyer Carapace. Carapace, so in a reverse of Roach versus Roach, Carapace is better if Muta versus Muta. Because of the glaive attack that does like trickle down damage, the Carapace upgrade allows Mutas to survive more than the +1 Flyer attack gives them extra damage. It's just not as obvious because in other matchups, Mutas die so quickly, it's not really relevant. But in this matchup, when the Mutas get all up in each other's grill and start ripping into one another, that Carapace upgrade really adds up. Especially since Mutas heal extra quickly with their special trait. I think it's called tissue regeneration. It's just fast healies, okay? Not like the ones that you wish you had in high school. But, oh, I'm sorry. Did I age you there? I bet you had one of those skateboards, like for your fingers, like fingerboards. Yeah. And Pokemon cards, but those are timeless, right? Like Beanie Babies. Meanwhile, Muta fights. What year is it? Beanie Baby year, maybe. The Brood War, but Serral thinks that Dark has more Mutas. He is right. Though I'm not sure how many are in that first clump. The Zerglings slip by and will delay and destroy the gas mining in just a few hundred. How much more? Dark has mined a couple hundred more gas, but he also invested in Roach speed and the ranged attack upgrade. In a heads-up fight, well, Dark has a 5th base already. Serral's taken his. But the Carapace upgrade is just better. We'll see if Dark has the numbers to overwhelm, so he's going to have another couple Mutas. Obviously, it matters how close you are to the base. The Zerglings are slipping by. Flyer Carapace level 1 is done. Dark has queued up Carapace 1. Serral starts Carapace 2. Both sides. Wow. What year is it? 30 versus 31 Mutas. But they're on Dark's side of the map. The Mutas flying in. Dark will pick the fight. Serral. Well, a few Zerglings get by into the 3rd base. We'll kill another dozen drones. The Muta's fighting heads up. Dark seems to have the Muta concave, but Serral clearly tilting the odds that he killed 21 drones. The Muta's really starting to stack up. You can tell as the fight goes on. And Dark just taps it out, knowing he's beat. Serral strikes back. Serral committing all out to the Mutaling in a way that I haven't seen for many moons. I feel like it was Wings of Liberty. In Heart of the Swarm, there was some Muta on Muta action, but there was also the Swarm Host action, which we just collectively have decided to forget. Okay? That never happened. Alright. We're not saying that the longest game in the history of StarCraft 2 was Heart of the Swarm Host, like Stefano versus, I want to say, Snoot. And if those names drag back some happy/sad memories, well, how's the back pain? Also like and subscribe. But unfortunately, it just kind of ends. No back and forth. Dark decisively beaten. Serral's on the board. And we're going to game number 4. Counting is your job. Ley lines. The Carapace is just a lot better. And it really adds up in those numbers. I'm kind of surprised Dark committed to the +1 flyer attack. I wonder... I think he was trying to play a bit of a mind game against Serral. Because he knew that his Mutas would be out first. Serral maybe would have chickened out. Don't know if that's the right word, but Serral could have potentially pulled back and gone Hydras, knowing that Dark's Mutas were fast. But he did not. He fully committed to the mass Muta style. And it paid off for him. Again, hatch first on either side. Larva management. That's the name of the game. Well, no, technically it's StarCraft 2, but larva management. That has been the story, the nuance of ZVZ. So, the very simple answer why you don't see very many mirror matchups, especially ones not involving Serral, is because, one, Clem no longer plays mirror matchups, and he plays in about half of all tournaments. He's the Dark of not Dark. And recently, even when Dark was playing, beating Dark. But, they don't get the views. Alright? Both YouTube doesn't promote them to the people, despite how nuanced and exciting they might be. And I think, one, a lot of the time they are kind of boring. It's just a 50-50, like that last game, where we built up, then one player won, and that was it. All mirror matchups have some of that more often than non-mirror matchups. The best. Just know, if you see a mirror matchup here, it has to hit an even higher percentage than the other matchups. Not that I think the reason you're here better part of an hour in is because you got tricked into watching a mirror matchup. All right, Serral versus Dark is Serral versus Dark. It's a whole nother thing, I think, as we've already seen. I'll be 100% honest. I have not watched any PvP, even Hero versus Max Packs, in months. I'm still recovering from the mental damage done to me from watching, well, any of it. I played some, but Protoss versus Protoss is a clown fiesta. At least Zerg versus Zerg has some semblance of sense, but PvP is... So, maybe we'll try to find some, but, I remember the last time I loaded up a PvP, like Hero versus Max Packs, then Hero was playing Terran. I'm like, okay. And then he got rolled by Max Packs, and that's probably why you didn't see the match here. But like and subscribe, man. TVT is actually, much like ZVZ, a bit more strategical, but can be so long-winded. And speaking of strategeries, that's a word, all right? I have the best words. Many smart people in the YouTube comments tell me that. The dance begins. Dark hit a Roach ward. He's building roaches. You can tell the correct Roach ward timing by Serral's right now. This is just a straight-up Roach all-in. Dark is clearly trying to sneak him out. There's an Overlord in position. Serral will have his Roach Warren done by the time, and he scouts the Roaches scurrying out. He will know the Roach Warren is much quicker based on the fact that he's only now able to build them. So, Dark is at 26 drones, which is significantly less than 38, or so my sources tell me. So, Roaches trying to sneak up. The Queen's in position. And, well, it feels like Serral has a decent amount to defend. More Zerglings coming in. The banelings trying to slip by, but boxed out by the Roaches. Zergling count good for Serral. Dark is droning behind, which means he also agrees that Serral has enough here, and he needs to try to make up the difference. But I don't feel like Dark did enough. That was underwhelming at best. He will catch up in workers, but so far Serral's mined 700 more minerals and 150 more gas. Putting him in... He's not building any more drones. He's still building roaches. He's gonna sneak. The Zergling gets by. It's gonna see the drone count, the underwhelming drone count here. Six more road. Serral is gonna strike back. The delayed counter all in. Dark is building 10 more drones. Dark is trying to recover by being obscenely greedy. And you kind of have to at this point. You can't just half-ass it. You got to full-ass it. Because otherwise you're going to have the same units with a worse economy. So Dark is trying to leapfrog Serral economically and take back the initiative. And Serral is going to try to kill him. So, we'll see who has the better end of things. Serral has 20 roaches to 10. Twice as many lings. He's streaming zerglings across the map behind. There's no upgrades on either side. There's no layer. We're still on hatch tech. But Serral has the numbers. It's going to take a minor miracle for Dark to defend against this. The banelings in position. Going to try to box out. Streams through. The roaches eat some of the splash damage, but now Serral has some banelings. The queen's behind trying to get a couple transfuses, but the roaches, not nearly enough. GG. Serral ties things up 2-2. Just like that. A decisive victory. The counter all in. What's another part of the poker game of ZVZ? What did I say? Zed v Zed. Zed versus Zed. I sound like that Dutch content creator in StarCraft 2. You're like, oh, Winter. You have any idea how little that narrows it down? I know, right? But Dark, he tried that was a mediocre all in. It was so weirdly timed too. One of those things that is Dark's career, though, in a nutshell. He's willing to crash and burn, right? Like, he's willing to just go for it. And you know what? If 55% of the time it works every time, well, that's enough. So, unfortunately, that wasn't that 55%. It was a very odd timing, and Serral handled it perfectly. The counter swing, he backhanded Dark off the map. And we go into Game 5 of Meganotha. One of our most curious of maps. Destructible rocks everywhere. Kind of weird attack paths. I never noticed the little crazy stuff going down there. On the indicator. Hatchery spreads over the top of it. Bit lewd. I do hope. We have a few... I don't know if I mentioned this. Just something that keeps coming to mind. So, even if I repeat myself in my elderly age. But there are other Zerg players who feel like they kind of work outside of the box. Who will take a dip outside of the spawning pool, if you would. Or vice versa. I don't know. Either way. But rarely are they so accomplished that the same combination of talent and aggression, recklessness, innovativeness sounded off, but players like, I guess, Rogue, always the kind of villain that Dark pretended to be. Dark is definitely has always been like the heel, intentionally. But GSL did an interview with, like, all the players in a season, 16 players. And of the players, they asked, like, which player fits their name the best? Like, which player is the most accurately named? And almost unanimous was Dark. I don't know who Dark said. Wouldn't be surprised if he also said Dark. But apparently a pretty chill guy as well. But the villain we need. Unfortunately, StarCraft 2 suffers from a severe lack at this stage of true villains, I guess. Rogue, I think, is the closest we have still, but Rogue, the player who wins the world championship and then says Zerg is imbalanced. I don't think he's saying that or doing that anymore, but he has a chance. The queens? Did you kill an over? No, I didn't kill anything, and you knew that. All right, you knew that, Brenda, and you keep annoying me about it. Well, I'm just checking up. There's a difference between checking up and being bothersome. Okay, it's a fine line, and you've crossed it too many times. Okay, wow, I touched a nerve. Yes, you... Sorry, I knocked out. Baneling nest is completed. No, I hesitated on that one, but... Roach one on the way. Serral with 10 more drones. Oh, Zergling. Surrounded and killed, pinned up against the corner and ripped apart. Yeah, we still have players like Scarlet, like Rex, Rogue to an extent, occasionally Shin, but no players as consistently inconsistent as Dark. Willing to just able to back up their shenanigans in the way Dark has always done. Even when he loses, he still makes it look. How many games of the year have been done? Feel like probably last year 50% or so. And yes, just an aside, game of the year means the game reaches a certain threshold. Like the top 5% of games, and we already only see the top 5% of games. So the top 5% of the top 5%. Game of the year is an idea. We can't know till the end of the year. Okay. Which we still got a little whiles to go. Though I wish it would come quicker, because that would bring Dark back to us more quickly. I miss him already. I was debating not casting these matches at all. Like, for emotional reasons. But then I realized that was very dumb. But it took me this long, because truly, it does feel like once I cast the last matches, he's truly gone. But I'm going in circles. And so are we, apparently. Back to the Spire. A pocket Spire for Dark. And this time around, well, Serral's the one going all sorts of in. Does Dark have any knowledge of this? He's getting hard supply blocked. Oh no. He's got a Spire on the way. 20 roaches for Serral. Dark has 7 more in production, but they will not be done. The Roach Ravager is knocking on the door, and Dark has very little with which to answer. The Roaches and banelings in production, but Serral has an overwhelming force. And, oh no. Serral just blindsides him. Dark on autopilot, and he just crashed into a wall of roaches. It's a disaster. The drones come off the line. Not exactly the most valuable fighting units against roaches and banes. And Serral shows Dark how it's done. That hatch tech all in just crushes through, and just like that, Dark goes down in match point for Serral. A tough timing. A difficult amount of it. Well, Dark just lapsed on his scouting, it seems. Clearly unprepared. Getting supply blocked at the exact moment the roaches are spotted. Insult, and then grievous injury. And Serral reasserting himself. 3 games in a row. Looking for effectively the reverse sweep. Unfortunately, the last couple games more one-sided than a Mobius strip. Well, I hope you like sand. As we're going to Sandworm for match point. Serral up 3-2. Everyone's had that. Where you have it in your head that you're dealing with something. Alright? Kind of get on autopilot. It happens, you get locked in StarCraft 2 when you play enough. Not that most of the people here would know what I'm talking about. I'm sorry, but... And you've just got an idea in your head of what your opponent's doing. Especially in mirror matchups, this can happen. And then an attack shows up you're completely unprepared for. It's just over. It's over before it started. There's no coming back from that. We just move on to the next game. And here we are. I'm very reasonably sure that's what happened to Dark there. Just had convinced himself Serral was doing something completely different. And gets blindsided. Spawning pool on the way. No pull first yet again. Left it for the 3-player map so far. What could be the last game of Dark's career. Again, it's not an official retirement, but it is the exception to the rule that players come back and play very much regularly. Technically, also, Serral has returned from his military service, though Finland, about 6 months, and he was in a special, like, athletic branch where he was able to still play tournaments, so definitely not as disruptive as the South Korean version. Kind of curious that it's a shared parallel there, though not particularly rare. Overlord. You can kind of tell the rush distance of the map as well by how deep the Overlord can go before having to pull back from the Queens. The Overlord gets all the way... No, don't make it weird. Gets all the way past and able to see... Did he actually see the... Okay, he didn't quite see the spawning pool. If he had seen Zergling speed, that would have been quite an informational coup. I'm going to say Q for a second, but... This map is so bright. Really highlights my ghostly complexion. Zerglings dancing on both sides. Serral building 4 to start. Dark has pretty consistently built only 2. Finally drives them away. Baneling nest for both sides. It's do or die time for Dark. And, well, he's gonna go for it. 16 Zerglings. This is a Ling, Bane, all in. And right now, Serral's in the dark about it. And when you're in the dark, Dark can definitely hurt you. Roach one's on the way. Serral already up to 30 drones and counting. He's going to realize the Lings and Banes on the way across. But he has to scramble to defend. That quick rush distance going to backfire on him. Lings and Banes completed on either side. Dark. Yes, he has a couple Banes at the north side. Dancing. The tension. Banelings takes 2 Banelings to kill 1. Backs off. The Queens are able to snipe off one of the Banes. Boxing out for the other 2. The Zerglings trying to slip by, get on top of the Queens. Banelings zoned out. Just 1 remains, but 2 more in production. And both players building drones behind. Dark, I don't think he's done enough damage to, I don't think he's done enough damage to justify this. He doesn't have the Banes. Both sides mutually assured destruction. 40 to 31 workers. It's not enough. And even if he catches up in drones, it's still... Serral's been mining with significantly more for significantly longer. The Queen's able to pick off another 1 Baneling. The Roach pops out. Gets another. Actually going to get ripped apart by some of the Zerglings. Eats another Baneling hit. But still, Dark Not quite finding the success. He's picking off a roach, picking off some zerglings, but overall, the tie goes to the leader. Dark has lost more resources, and he has less drones. It's not a massive deficit. It isn't unrecoverable. But Serral certainly has the edge. Dark has to tread carefully. Or the opposite. I'm not sure which is better for him. The Zerglings, I don't know how he does this. He just gets by. He gets in. There is no lair. He's gonna see it's still hatch tech. Another Zergling for Dark gets in, survives the entire gauntlet of the main. And hey, the Zerg who lived. You're a Zergling, Harry. No, oh, don't look. Both sides of the lair. Serral will maintain a slight edge across the board. He's gonna have a few more drones, a slightly quicker lair, slightly quicker +1. And he already has more roaches on the field. So, Dark has ground to make up. But if he stays in striking distance, it's not insurmountable. What happens when the lair finishes? Serral, Overseer, Roach speed. Dark has caught up in drones. Again, though, Serral has mined 600 more minerals, 150 more gas. Again, small advantages, timings, adding up. But neither side. Oh, Serral's gonna go for a 4th base down the center and take down the rocks, blocking mining. One of the more interesting parts of the map. Of course, the center, the sand spires, make it very difficult for things like, larger units like roaches, your mother, ravagers to get through. Lings and banes clearly have no issue. There's rocks on either side you can take down, but every second counts. Overlord drop on the way. Overlord speed. Dark is fully committed. All out roaches. He's at 61 drones. He hasn't built any in a little while. He is going nowhere else. He's got +1 ranged attack. Has not started +2. He's got roach speed. Has not bothered with burrow. Meanwhile, Serral is kind of stretching himself a bit more thinly. This is Dark's best chance. He has equal army supply, similar unit count. Oh, that's actually a baneling drop coming out. The queens ambling off a creep but struggling. The overlords wandering off into the sunset. But here we go. Serral has spent a little more on infrastructure, a little more on upgrades, giving Dark a small window to potentially get the damage done. The roach counterattack. The baneling drop is devastating. It goes from a small economic deficit to a complete economic crash. 67 to 42 workers, yet Dark is even on supply. He fills in those drones with 11 more roaches. He's gonna have one shot. He'll have one opportunity. He needs to get the damage done. He needs to win with this attack. It's all on the line. 59 to 54 roaches, 7 ravagers to 5. Serral, both sides maxed out, but Dark shoving up the ramp. Corrosive bile lands across the board. Zerglings come into the 3rd base. And just darts back, parts the Red Sea. The corrosive biles aren't enough. The roaches are thinning out for Serral so quickly. And the Ravagers not doing enough to counteract it. Suddenly Serral was behind on supply. The drones are pulled off the line. But too little and possibly too late. Dark knew he had to put it all into this attack. And this attack has done enough. Serral desperately pulling the drones. The +2 ranged attack may never complete. The drone count will even up, and that's not a good sign for the finisher, as we may be going all the way to game number 7. Dark story doesn't end here. Serral's does. GG. We're going to game 7. Wow. We're not done yet. Dark hits that timing. He stayed half a step behind. And Serral? He kind of hesitated. He went for more upgrades. He went for drops. He went for overlord speed. Dark did none of those things. He was directly down the only path he had. The Roach speed. If he hits a little bit later, he loses. If he hits earlier, then Serral doesn't invest in these things. If Serral sees the attack coming, he just builds roaches. He tries to defend. So, both players knew Dark was all in, but that didn't matter. The execution, in every sense of the word, incredibly well done. And now we determine game number 7. Ooh, on one of our spiciest maps. Kill switch. What a dramatic map. We got mineral fields everywhere. We got Wulas to slow things down. We got rock towers, watch towers, all sorts of towers. Will the final boss or the finisher come out ahead? Either way, in his last tournament, Dark making it dramatic as always. And that's why he's the final boss. It doesn't matter whether he wins or loses. Well, usually he makes it far, and he makes it exciting. Somehow punching above his quite a significant weight. It's a little unfair, but... And going toe-to-toe, well, arguably Dark is the best of them, so I guess that would be inaccurate. No pool first, no crazy cheese to cap things off. Instead, both players, again, the cookie cutter hatch, well, not really cookie cutter, but the clinical hatch first, and gas pool behind, not leaving anything out. This map does have a ramp to the natural, though. There's also the mineral wall ramp with a rock tower there. I think that actually takes down the mineral wall. Rock towers will destroy minerals under them. As is used on, I believe Tokamak is the only other map where that applies at the moment. Oh, what a series. The strategy clear here. The split. And a bittersweet moment as well. What are we going to do without you, Dark? A little bit less. Made so many days a little bit better. Thank you again to Pig. Make sure to check out that link in the description. Thank you again to Dark. And thank you again to you. Like and subscribe. Near identical third base diamonds. Zergling speed is on the way. Overlord's hanging out. Looking on. Main nest. We're not, even with the ramp, not gonna risk it. Especially after last game. The Zergling's dancing around. Will either commit. So far, so standard. But that can change so quickly. Evolution chamber. Hidden. The zergling spotted it, so I don't know if Serral's going to read into that much. Either way, he sees the Evo chamber, builds 10 more drones. Quite a commitment. Roach one on the way for Dark. Roach one for Serral as well. Dark boxed out by the queens and the zerglings. Overlords. Ooh. 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 Hey! Hey! Get out of here! Sorry. Brenda, don't be rude. But we don't like his kind around here. He's also an overlord. That's worse! No. Queen. Driving out the overlord. Both players. There's not much space between them here. A set of rocks can be taken down as well, but the rush distance is minimal. And it only gets shorter as some of this terrain gets taken down. Dark is going for Carapace, whereas Serral is going for a lair and +1. Dark has 44 drones, whereas Serral has 60. Dark is going all in. He must do damage with this attack. He's putting it all on the line. Once again, he's picked his timing, and it's an original one. It's something we haven't seen before this series. It's a fake. He's putting a gas down here. He's actually moved some of the drones from his main and his natural to his third to try to convince Serral he's not going all in. But Serral is calling his bluff. He's building roaches. He's getting a spine crawler. Dark has made a couple moves. He's putting one in gas. Dark is really trying to sell Serral on the idea that he's not going all in, but Serral ain't buying it. He's got spines already. Building more banelings for defense, but Dark does have 23 roaches. There is no lair. There is no follow-up to this. More roaches, more lings, more banes. The Carapace upgrade applies to everything. Not as focused as any of the attack upgrades, but across the board, and much quicker than Serral with his +1 ranged attack. Here comes Dark for all the marbles, for all the prizes, and maybe the last game of his career. Roaches, banelings rolling through. Spine crawler will be taken down with incidental damage. The lines are drawn once again, but Serral's line is broken. The spine crawler helping out. Corrosive bile actually snipes his own queen. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal, Ravager. Breaks through into the main base. The last spine crawler will crumble in the backbone of the defense alongside it. +1 ranged attack about to complete. Drones are pulled off the line. Serral not using them to attack. Rethinks that idea. Gonna try to absorb a little bit more damage. Drones just kind of hanging out in the front of things. +1 ranged attack is done, giving him that extra option. But Serral starting to break. Enough roaches here. The hatchery is vulnerable, but not committing to it. Ravagers. The 2 bruised roaches will pop out as fresh ravagers. The hatchery is in the orange, but the roaches are brought. He's actually using the roaches in order to block for the 3rd base. What a call by Dark. He's gonna get the 3rd. He does. That's massive. He desperately needed that, because if he didn't get it, then Serral just has more production, similar economy, and better upgrades. +1 ranged attack is superior, but Serral losing the 3rd base severely hamstrings the production, and he killed the queens again. Once again, Dark, at a key moment, takes out the queens and hamstrings Serral's production. Serral pulls out his pocket Spire, which many times is inappropriate, but now is just desperate. The Spire is a predictable, yet potent move. Similar to Game 1 on Last Fantasy. We saw Serral reach for the Spire and almost bring it back with the utility of the Mutalisks. But Dark, he managed to get a lair. He's up to 50 drones. I mean, as a great man once said, when your opponent's doing something weird, go fucking kill him. And Dark, there's few players who embody that more. If he figures it out. Did he see it? He did not see the Spire. But he's going to have Roach speed done. There's no reason to wait. He's going straight through the rocks. Let me through! The Ravagers. Goes right down his front doorstep. Up into Serral's. There are 4 Mutas on the way, but with +1 Carapace and this many Roaches, they won't do more than give Dark a deep tissue massage. Wish I could. Roaches, Ravagers. The Mutas overhead. The Zerglings around the back to lock the Roaches in for a little more. Whips out the corrosive biles. Gets a double kill on the spines. And Serral down 50 supply. Dark, undeterred by match point, is breaking through up to the high ground. Serral tries to split, but the third base is vulnerable. This time around, Dark not focusing on it. He's gonna try to wipe out the Roaches. The Mutas are of little consequence, but the consequences are dire. Serral, GG, and Dark will win their final contest. 4 games to 3. Dark once again proving that you cannot underestimate him. Dark once again proving why he's called the final boss. Once again taking down the, and I quote other people, best player in the world. Dark was something to remember him by. We still got a few matches. I'm not sure if this was the literal last match, but one of the playoff matches from Pigsty 6, and proving that, well, a lot of players have a tendency to go out on a whimper, but Dark has always been one to go out with a bang, one way or another. Beating Serral, a very exclusive club, and you're not in it. But I'm glad to be here to watch Dark continue to renew his membership either way. Thank you for watching. A bittersweet moment, but hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully his games have made your days a little bit better. And I certainly hope I get an opportunity to see more of them in the future. Thank you to Pig as well. As always, putting on the tournaments. Like and subscribe to Pig. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I do hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. Thank you to our mule patrons, Big Jiggy, Devin, Dork, Kate, Mario, Random Guy, and Suit for bringing in those extra minerals. And I'm glad you enjoy. If you want to see more Dark games, just go through the Game of the Year list, starting with like a month ago. Okay. That highest percentage of games, even if they don't say Dark in the title, there's like a 50-50 that it's Dark anyways. And rounding up, of course. But thank you for watching. I certainly hope you enjoyed. I hope it made your day a little bit better. I hope to see you again, Dark. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.